Hi everyone. Welcome back. This is going to be the second episode of my plant series. This episode will be about crops or agriculture. The first episode was about trees, and that was a huge success. He has like 75 views. Actually, that's not very successful for a big YouTube channel, but for me, I consider that a cool thing. And it was only posted like 4 days ago. So, like I said I would, I'm back with the second episode. And before we get into it, I want to talk about something concerning the third episode. I have not figured out what it will be yet. The deadline that I'm going to set for the third episode is going to for submissions for what the third episode should be about is going to be Christmas. So if you have an idea and if you haven't sent it yet, please do it before Christmas, which means that the third episode will be after Christmas. Today is the 16th at the time I'm recording with you. Now, I'm sorry. You cannot send a comment, and that is not your problem. You may think it is because you haven't signed in or anything. But actually, that's my problem because I do not know how to enable comments. I do not know how to work a YouTube channel. I just started. Anyways, I'm going to name, at the time of recording this video, the submissions for the third episode. Rocky Mountain National Park trees, carnivorous plants, cypress and oak trees, and fungi are the comments. And then the questions asked were, do trees prevent flooding in California? And how do trees produce oxygen? I think these are a really interesting and great. I will say something about some of these. I don't think the third episode will be tree related because I've already done a episode about trees and I don't really feel like doing two just because I'd like to do something I haven't done already. I mean, I know I'm doing 3 episodes about plants, but they're different kinds of plants. They're not all just trees. So 4 questions of these are concerning trees. And they're all great questions or comments or ideas. I just don't think I'll use them in the third episode because I personally would prefer not doing trees again. Maybe in the future I'll do an episode about trees and I'll think, hey, what about all those great questions from a little while ago? The submissions for the third episode of my plant series, and I'll come back to these. But for now, I don't think so. Carnivorous plants and fungi, I really like those, so I'm definitely gonna consider those. And I really like the tree questions too. I just don't think they'd be right for the third episode. Anyways, now that I've covered that, let's dive into it. The number 4 or 5 most grown crop in the world. So that's what we're going to do today. The top 4 or 5, you'll see, I'll explain, most grown crops. And in dead last place of the top, so it's the bottom of the top, is wheat. Now, some of you might be surprised to see it this low. Oh, wait. Okay. One more thing I should have covered. Langston will not be doing it for this episode. This will be just me. He will be with me for the third episode. Don't worry. Anyways, so some of you might be surprised to see this low. But this is spot number 4, technically. But that does not mean that it is not mass produced, because it roughly is produced 760 million tons a year. So don't underestimate how much wheat is produced worldwide. I mean, a cool fact about wheat and bread is, well, it was sort of sacred to ancient Egyptians. Ancient pharaohs are basically like the ancient Egyptian kings. Maybe I could do an episode about ancient Egyptians sometime. That would be super cool. Anyways, these ancient pharaohs, once they died, they were sometimes buried with wheat and bread. It was sort of sacred in ancient Egypt. If you were rich, they made your bread out of wheat. If you were poor, they made your bread out of barley. Barley bread doesn't sound nearly as good, at least to me. So that's how it worked. And it was a staple food for the ancient Egyptians. They put it on their pharaohs so the pharaohs could have something to eat in the afterlife. So yeah. Now, here is the process of how wheat turns to bread. So, first, plant the seeds, and then you wait about 9 months until it's ready to harvest. You know it's ready to harvest when it's this golden brownish color, like it is in this picture. You harvest it, and then you send it to a factory. The factory mushes and chops it up. Then it goes through a filter thing. You know that thing when you want to put powdered sugar on your brownies or something? It's like a screen, not like an iPad type of screen. It's a cooking tool. So they put it through this filter screen thing, and the large pieces, which eventually make the dough, stay in, and a powder comes out. That powder is actually flour. So it's also how flour is made. That's pretty cool. That's all I investigated about because, from then you just take it and then make a dough and then make bread. I mean, this isn't a cooking class. This isn't a cooking episode. This is a crop episode, which is sort of tied to cooking in that a lot of crops are edible. But this isn't a cooking episode. Anyways, let's go to our next entry. Rice. Now, some of you might be surprised to see this so low on the list because it gets kind of complicated. Now, I made this list I'm not sure the word for it, how much is grown on average. However, it's actually a different list if you talk about how much is eaten worldwide. Rice is the most eaten crop worldwide. I don't how okay, so rice, it counts for a whopping every 1 in 5 calories worldwide. A huge part of that is thanks to Asia, where 90% of it is grown and consumed. That is probably expected, though. If someone asks you what continent you think rice is most widely grown on, I'm pretty sure you'd say Asia. But just because it's number 3 does not mean it's not grown much. About 840 million tons of it are grown every year. That's 35 quadrillion grains. 35 with 15 zeros after. That is a lot. rice is just rice. So there's not really any major process in it turning into food we eat. Like with wheat, it turns into bread. You don't turn rice into. I mean, like you can do things with rice. You can turn into rice dishes like arancini and sticky rice. But I'm just going to move on to number 2. Or wait, is it number 2? Or is it number 2 and 3? This corn or maize or maize. And is there any difference? And does it affect this video? Well, the answer to that is, let's break it down. This is pretty complicated. Now, I'm pretty sure most, if not all of my viewers are from the US. And here we call it corn. The thing about corn, it is very versatile. It can grow in lots of places, which is what makes it so widespreadly grown. So, in the UK and other parts of like the eastern side of the world, or technically it's not the eastern side of the world since it's all a big globe, but like you know what I mean, Europe and some parts of Asia. It's also there. But they don't call it corn. They call it maize or maize. M-A-I-Z-E. So technically, if you count these two as separate, there is no difference besides the fact that you call them, there is no difference really. You just call them different things depending on where you live. And if you count them as one species, which I mean, I think you should, then they then it accounts for about 1.2 billion tons. That is grown on average every year. That is insane in amount. And then what if it's not the case? Okay, this is unexpected. Langston just got back from tennis, and then he was like, I want to be in the podcast. And I was like, sure. So he is now going to tell me. So as I was saying, that is a lot of corn/maize. I'm just gonna call it corn grown. But however, if you separate corn and maize, then corn, maize both knock down to corn 3rd spot and then maize 4th spot, and then rice becomes number 2. Because in the US, about how much corn is grown, Langston?
15.1 million
bushels are grown every year in the US. So yeah, by bushels I mean like not stalks, but I'm hoping you know what a bushel is because I don't fully either. Anyways, let's go on to number 1. Drum roll, please. Thank you, Langston, for the drum roll. Let's not. This probably didn't surprise many people. What does this look like, Langston?
Bamboo.
It does look like bamboo, actually, to me too, but it's not bamboo. You have any other guesses? It doesn't look like what it is.
Uh,
You want to get in the picture?
it looks like plants.
Yes, it's a plant. This is sugar
What?
or sugar cane. Sugar before it's sugar. This is sugar cane, the most grown plant in the world, with a whopping 1.87 billion tons grown on average every year. That is insane. 1.87 billion. So imagine, let's see, what's the good?
You? Imagine you.
Okay, so imagine a rhinoceros, okay?
Okay.
A rhinoceros is about 2 tons. Okay, Langston?
I know.
Imagine multiplying that by a billion.
What?
A billion rhinoceroses. Actually, no, here's a better. So, let's say you have 1,000 rhinoceroses, okay? Multiply that by 1,000 times a million. 1 million. Yeah. And multiply that by a million. 1,000 rhinoceroses times a million. That's how much sugarcane is grown each year, roughly. Probably. Hopefully. I don't know. I might have done my math wrong. Anyways. Yeah, 1.87 billion. Now, clear this up, Langston. Do you know about the different types of sugar?
Yes.
What? Can you tell me one of them?
Brown sugar, regular, white sugar, powdered sugar.
Okay, but how about the scientific names for them?
Scientific brown sugar, scientific white sugar,
Not quite.
scientific powdered sugar.
Let's go here, and I can explain. The kind of sugar that sugarcane makes, it's that white sugar. You've all tasted it before. That is called sucrose. Okay, Langston?
Okay.
White sugar, that's called sucrose. There are these 2 other kinds of sugars. There are other kinds of sugars, though. Lactose is the sugar in dairy, okay? Okay, Langston? And maltose is the sugar in grains. Fructose and glucose are the sugars in fruit and some vegetables. And galactose is the sugar in dairy and some fruits. So like the other ones. Those are the different kinds of sugar. Now, that are those top 4 or 5 most grown crops. Blakeson, what was my other crop video about? Do you remember? This isn't my only crop video I've made, believe it or not.
Wool crops?
No. Do you remember my video about hybrid crops?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's present that. So, one of the best examples that I should have used in my other video is, Langston, tell me an orange vegetable.
What's an orange vegetable?
What? Tell me an orange vegetable.
An orange
Vegetable. This is one of the examples that I should have used.
Carrot?
Very good. Nice try. Nice guess. So, carrot. 4,000 years ago, what do you think carrots were used for?
Eating?
No. Not yet.
Smelling?
No.
Sleeping on?
No.
Measuring?
No. Med? Medis?
Medicine? No,
Yep.
that's not what. Wait, it is?
Medicine. Medicine was what the ancient Greeks used carrots for. And they weren't the purple ones that we know today. They were these hard, bitter, white carrots. And
Carrots aren't purple.
Huh?
Carrots are.
the orange. But some farmers, during times, there was some people who didn't have enough food. They did have carrots. So some ancient farmers tried to experiment with them. You okay?
Yeah.
They chose the best tasting carrots, which didn't taste very good still. And sort of combined them. They put them around the same soil so they would make the same plant. And then that's how we got these slightly less bitter, a bit more purplish tone carrots. That's not what we have today. So firms kept doing this. They combined the best of each of these until we got to the orange carrots that we have today. So hybrid crops, a method of taking crops, using the best of them, and making new crops of them. They only started out with one apple species. Now there are more than 7,000 because of this method of making crops. So for an example, let's say I wanted a apple in a broccoli shape. This wouldn't happen over a day. But as I sort of combined the apple and the broccoli and had them touch each other and stick together, they would form together the stem and then the apple tree, and then eventually I could choose the apples that looked more and more like broccoli, Langston, and then I would have an apple that looked like broccoli. Cool, right? Anything else you want to say? Or are you ready to go?
I'm ready to
Okay. Sorry you didn't get to do much, but you can help me in the third episode, right?
Okay.
And you're going to help me choose what the third episode is going to be about, right?
Okay.
So, that's all for right now. Bye-bye. See ya. Bye, Langston. How to stop it.